Here is a perfect example of, least to say, a very aesthetically pleasing example of strength training for the sport of wrestling. In a world filled with Bose balls and rubber bands and yoga mats and various functional movements, however you want to label it, by Professor this or the guy with the master teases that, it is just so pleasing to see a video with basic fundamental movements like this, you know, the battle-tested compound lifts at full range of motion that has been working for ages, you know, a common sense approach, if you will. And I am not shitting on the academics. In fact, I am an academic myself and I read their works all the time. My point is that people often take the findings out of those things out of context. They approach it in a too mechanical and sort of rigid manner, and they just don't have the necessary in-field experience to connect the dots. They take the findings of those studies too literally. Like, a study might say, okay, use this certain exercise modality or use this certain rep range, and they just approach it in a set-in-stone manner without any flexibility. And that's not gonna work in something with so many variables and approaches like strength training, which involves biological entities that we call humans with millions of processes. You know, you can't really give a one-size-for-all solution like that. It doesn't work that way. Now, those wrestlers that you see in the video, they use very fundamental movements. It's basic stuff. It's pushing variations, it's Olympic lifts, it's pulling, it's push-ups. They use the full range of motion on these exercises. And there is just something about the old way of doing things. I can't really put it into words. Yes, we have advanced tremendously today in terms of technology and medical advances, vaccines and computers and calculations and all of that. But like one of my favorite thinkers, Charlie Munger, he said, today we calculate too much and think too little. It's because we have so many tools and formulas and calculators available to us that we don't think enough. We don't use enough common sense. And if time goes on, we're just gonna deviate further and further away from this kind of fundamental common sense thinking into just relying on machines and calculators all the time. At some point we're gonna lose it. And I'm not gonna try to go into a philosophical debate here. My point is just that strength training for wrestling or any sport for that matter, it doesn't have to be that complicated. You just use the fundamental movement patterns that you're gonna come across in your sport, such as push, such as pull, squat, deadlift, explosive type of movement, and you need to choose exercises that allow for a progressive overload, okay? If you're not overloading your strength training sessions, guess what? You're not gonna improve in strength. Strength training, the term by default, means overcoming forces, and to get better at overcoming forces you need to lift heavier in a progressive way. If you lift 3 sets of 5 reps or 3 sets of 10 reps, it doesn't matter. Do whatever you want, what you're enthusiastic about, and simply increase in accordance to your daily readiness, little by little. If you do rubber band this all the time or get too caught up with the functional movements and all of that, the complexity of those exercises don't really allow you to progressively overload. If you choose a simple exercise variation, like just a standard bench press, a standard back squat or a front squat, those exercises are compound, you know, they involve multiple joints in fundamental movements and you can overload in them. If you don't like the front squat, okay, choose something more simple. Sure, a goblet squat or even a leg press machine, as long as the exercise works on a fundamental movement and you can progressively overload. That is really all you need in every fundamental movement pattern. This is the most basic way of me explaining strength training to you. In this exercise, they are doing sort of a kettlebell deficit muscle snatch in a way. You can see he goes down all the way and he extends it all the way upwards. It's the total body involved here. And I can assume they are Greco-Roman wrestlers training on the lift off from the ground, you know, that Alexander Karelin did and all of those guys. And I know, I can see it in front of me right now that everyone is gonna lose their shit saying, oh, he's bending his back and this is happening right here. Of course, I advocate a straight back when you're moving, for example, a 200 kilogram deadlift and all of this, but this is just a small little kettlebell, and if you look at his back, it's equally bent on all the vertebrae of the body, so it's not really getting hyper concentrated anywhere, and this is just a fundamental movement. And guess what? The vertebra of your back, if you study anatomy, you will actually see that they are designed to move. One thing is moving a light weight with a bent back, and another thing is moving maximum weight with a bent back, because then you have everything concentrated in one point, and that is not what you want. You need to start seeing things in context. Don't follow statements like this in an absolutist manner. Like if someone says you must keep a straight back and whatnot, you need to see it in context, okay? Don't just buy everything that people say out of there. Use a little bit of common sense. We humans have 200,000 of years of history, and before that millions of years in our previous ape forms. Do you think all of our chimpanzee ancestors and all of our caveman ancestors were like walking around thinking, oh, I need to keep a straight back while I hit this intruder with my wooden club or pick up this stone or whatever? No. I don't think nature is that dumb of designing our bodies to function like this. Study anatomy and you will see that the back is actually meant to move. And even during powerlifting competition, you know, Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw, all of those crazy strongmen, you know, John Hack, when they deadlift massive amounts of weights, or even the wrestler in this video, if you pay attention, you can see that everything is involved in this movement. They are using their leg musculature, they are using their core, their lats, everything. They are uniting the body, so no area gets hyper concentrated. One thing would be if they just relaxed in a sloppy manner and lifted this weight, then it would get hyper concentrated. Yes, so view things in context. And here we can see them doing a rope climb, which is kind of an upgraded variation of the pull-up, you know. It challenges the grip strength tremendously as well as the back strength. Once again, we confuse complexity with efficiency. We look at a movement like this and it cannot possibly be effective, right? Like, where are the Bosey balls again? Where are the rubber bands? Where are the fancy equipment? Like, if you take an exercise like this, you know, climb up 5 meters one time, okay, 10 meters one time, or 10 seconds the first time, 20 seconds the first time, create a plan of making it progressively more difficult, and you are making tremendous strength gains. It's not always so much about which exercise format or modality you use. Yes, it matters, but having a progressive overload plan and making things progressively difficult is how you increase in strength. Meanwhile, being attentive to your daily readiness every day. Okay, if you're severely fatigued and overworked one day and you might have planned something heavy, well, guess what? Too bad. You're just gonna have to cut off the intensity a bit and recover and do it better next time. This is the difficulty of strength training. Judging when you are ready and, you know, doing something that you are realistically capable of that day that is just a little bit beyond your edge and not too much. And here is this wrestler again with an alternating kettlebell press. I mean, perfect posture. He pushes it all the way upwards, goes all the way downwards. Despite this video being from, I don't know, World War II or something, I've seen like trainers, you know, with master's degrees and even PhDs instructing their athletes, and even they don't do it this well, you know. As I said, again, like fundamental qualities, common sense is all you need. You don't even need a high IQ. You don't need 160 IQ. You don't even need average IQ to do it correctly. You only need a bit common sense to make a good strength training intervention. And this is as commonsensical of an approach as I have ever found of a strength training routine on the entire internet. And here we have some barbell landmine rotations. Again, a very fundamental movement pattern that is evident in every sport, not only wrestling. Hip rotation. And he's rotating all the way, keeping the barbell tight and close to the body, activating everything. This is how you do it. Hip rotation, another fundamental movement. Perfect. And what do we have here? Plyometrics. Working the stretch shortening cycle, working elastic energy. Few quality repetitions, high mental and muscular intent on every repetition, you know, so that you don't make it this kind of aerobic cardio workout and you actually make it an explosive power workout. And again, those people are doing it much better than most plyometric videos, modern videos that you're gonna find on the internet, you know. I've seen that plyometrics is one of the most abused terms in entire sports science. You know, you have someone with a fancy degree reading in a textbook, you should do depth jumps and hurler jumps and this and that. And when you see them do it, they are approaching it like an aerobic cardio workout. No, plyometrics needs to be done with high intent. You need to reprogram your brain to recruit motor units to produce powerful actions. That is how you do it. And you need to spend little time on the ground to, work on this elastic energy. That is plyometrics for you. And here we have a power snatch, an Olympic lifting variation used by Olympic weightlifters, some of the most powerful athletes on the planet, that is. And it works on your total body power development. Now this might seem simple, but it's actually a quite complex movement, but if you have the time and energy to learn it, very valuable, along with the power cleans and all other derivatives. And here they are doing the Zercher deadlift. And once again, I know that people are gonna lose their shit over their back, but this is the nature of their sport, Greco-Roman wrestling. They do this all the time, minus the barbell, and with a human instead. They lift each other like this in a reverse lift, that it is called. If you get to a down enough position like this, it's really difficult to do it with a perfectly straight back, and you can't really do it. And those people have been doing reverse lifts in Greco-Roman practice all their life. They know instinctually which muscles to activate to make this lift happen in an efficient manner. And here they are doing a power throw with a kettlebell, a form of ballistic training, if you will, which involves using the entire range of motion and beyond, in a flighty, ballistic manner. Very useful for Greco-Roman wrestling when you do the suplex, kind of. And honestly, like in modern sports science, in strength and conditioning coaches, how often do you see a coach instructing such a good explosive power development exercise, such a fundamental movement pattern, no fancy shit, just the fundamentals? How often do you see it? Once again, those old people, the old guys, they knew a couple of things. They did it in a very fundamental manner. And we are trying to reinvent the wheel right now. We are overcomplicating it more than ever. And look at this bench push-up right here. The hollow position that allows you to use every single inch of the range of motion, all the way down and all the way up. How often do you see modern wrestlers doing push-ups like this? Seriously. He's doing them. It's just perfect. I know I'm going crazy over this video right now, but I'm not faking it. I am really this excited about seeing this. Like, it totally engages my enthusiasm in no way that I can put into words, because this is just so fundamental and so clean. This little old Soviet video that you are seeing right here, if you just watch this one, you're probably gonna learn more than 14 weeks or 3 years of this exam or this education at university in order to learn strength training for the sport of wrestling. And I am telling you this as an academic, like, it is not really that difficult. You just need some simple concepts, some simple principles, and choose common sense exercises like this and stick to it. Be persistent. That's all you need.